So I stopped and put on some clothes and popped a fresh battery into the camera. It's 6:30. I left the house, I don't know, I think at 4:30, something like that, a little after 4 anyway. And so far I've done 39, let's call it 40 kilometers. And used about 5 volts. Rather, 6 volts. I have 7.3 left to play with. Let's call it 7. If I can get 6 kilometers per volt, that's 42 kilometers, which is plenty to go home. I think it's about 25 kilometers from here, so I could actually, if I were conservative, go home and then come back. That Suzuki is faster than a bicycle. I am impressed. On today's ride, I've been riding more normally. In other words, pedaling fairly firmly, staying off the throttle, mostly. So I should have no trouble at all getting home with plenty left to spare. I want to continue doing calculations on how far this battery will take me, because if I can't get at least 80 kilometers, I'm going to have to reconsider keeping it, or better yet, get it repaired if I can do it cheaply. I think it has a bad cell. The more I think on it, the more that's a good possibility. It doesn't get hot. It charges nicely. And it's been dependable for the last, I think I've had it over a year. And it's always, not quite a year, almost a year. I think it'll be a year next month. I got it right before I had my retinal detachment surgery, and I'll have to see when I did that because it's been a while. And quite frankly, I didn't write it down on the calendar. Those are kinds of things you rather forget. But I will say the surgeons were brilliant. And the after care, the follow-up care has been, at least as far as I can tell, outstanding. Spain has very good doctors. Nevertheless, cruising along at 40 or 31 kilometers an hour into a headwind and pushing I'm probably producing 70, 100 watts, I don't know. Not a hell of a lot. I honestly wish this bike had a torque sensor. And I looked into getting one, but it's not just like shoving in the torque sensor. I need a controller that fits it and an LCD that talks to the controller. So it's altogether it'll be a couple €100. Then there's that I could live with. What I can't live with is losing my double crank. Now I have in my home, in the garage, a perfectly brand new FSA 3046 tooth FSA crank set. Beautiful aluminum, just nice. And it's a square drive. So it'll be exactly the same gear ratios that I'm using now, which is what I want. But the reason I'm not using it is I'd rather not have I'd imagine it's a dog or something. I'm looking for a dog to jump out at me. The reason I'm not using it is this is a Holotech Shimano, and I just like the way it looks. It's bulletproof. Well, not totally. I wrecked one. A big rock smashed into the chain ring, maybe 6 months ago, and destroyed it. I kept derailing on the way home, and something's going on. And then I spun the crank around and saw that it was bent. I banged it more or less straight with a rock and got home with it. But it isn't. These are very cheap. And it's just not worth messing with. I think it's an MT210 or something like that. Anyway, it's a very cheap Altus crank set. It's called an Altus Boost, and they're very inexpensive. It has steel chain rings with aluminum arms. I'd much prefer if it was all alloy, but it's okay. But the bottom bracket is the big deal. Sealed bearings, and it is lighter than a square drive by a lot. Even the FSA with aluminum chain rings would be heavier with that square drive spindle. Now you might say, well, why would you care about a little thing like some weight? The FSA is a nicer looking unit, and it's aluminum, and it's actually a handsome crank set, but weight matters on an e-bike. That's why I bought the Bucklows forks, is because they were so light. I kind of rolled the dice on that because some reviews were that they were junk and not safe. Pictures, I saw pictures of them broken, that kind of thing. But I also realized if you were doing 6-foot drops, backflips, and that kind of thing with that type of a crank that actually is labeled, do not do backflips and 6-foot drops right on it. It's actually literally says don't do this and don't do that. Meant for casual riding. And anyway, there's a warning label on it. That should have been enough to tell you what not to do with it, and they meant it. For touring, I don't think I would have ever had a trouble with it, other than the fact that when I went to put new wipers on the stanchions, I couldn't reassemble it because it was so badly made. The dampening side wouldn't screw back together. That will not be a problem with this RockShox. At least I don't think so. I've seen videos of these things being taken apart, these RockShox Recons. They're on YouTube, and people take them apart, take out a couple spacers and extend the travel and that kind of thing, and they're beautiful to work with. But I'm not going to yank it apart just to extend the travel until I have to service it. They talk about 50-hour services, and for me, I ride about, let's say, 3 hours a day. That would come very quickly indeed. I'm not going to rip this thing apart every month or so to change out the, oops, I came too early. Well, I can get through there, but I don't want to because it's kind of a dog walk, and dog walks have dog products. There's about a dozen ways to get across that field, and they're all good. But the way I'm going to go now is on a nice gravel road. It's meant for walking and bicycling, and it's relatively clean. People don't feel obliged to clean up after their dogs on a trail nearly as much as they do on an organized pathway. If we're lucky, we'll see a bunch of bunny rabbits. They're all over the place. So if you're wondering why I'm going so slowly, well, I'm going 26 kilometers an hour, which isn't terribly, terribly slow, but 35 would be lovely on this surface. The thing of it is, it's in keeping with battery conservation, so I can do my calculations. Yeah, the very first time I drove this new motor, I only got 51 kilometers and it was flat. Now I think I started with 53.3 volts, if memory serves. But I came out to like 3.9 kilometers per volt, which is not good. Since then, I've measured 5.9, which is more realistic, and I'm convinced I can get 7. So 5.9 is almost 6, and with a little bit, slowing it down just a little bit, not having any headwinds would help, but slowing it down just a little bit will definitely extend the distance I can travel easily. It is truly remarkable how 5 kilometers an hour difference consumes battery. I think another thing that helps this bike quite a bit are the drop handlebars. I can tuck down into a wind, and that saves a lot of juice. But I have a pannier hanging on the side, on the drive side, and a battery bag hanging on the left. Although the battery bag is fairly small, relatively speaking, it's narrow. It's smaller than my leg, so that's a good thing. The pannier is just kind of it's a pannier, so it just kind of hangs there. And it is in fact a lot of air drag, but it keeps the center of balance lower, which is nice, and I don't have anything behind my saddle for when I want to dismount. Although I really should do another battery test with the trunk bag, because carrying my little cargo, spare clothes and that kind of thing, behind the saddle is aerodynamically sound. Wow, what a beautiful view. I can see San Pedro's up in Los Santos de la Hermosa, up on that hilltop. Very beautiful Gothic era chapel. Well, it's a small church. Anyway, I think that'll do it for right now. I'm going to be getting off of this, out of this industrial zone quite shortly, and getting onto the pathway into Alcalá. We're still in Meco, which is actually a huge area. The town itself isn't that big. The residential zone isn't enormous, but it has a lot of landmass. It seems the closer you get to Guadalajara, the population density keeps going down, and there's more space and farmland, and it's just lovely. Got to be careful. People come out of these side streets really fast when they get out of work. I'm going to stop here and let you take a look at this beautiful view. Not the trucks, but I need to take my glove off. Directly ahead, in the very center of the frame, is San Pedro's, and that hilltop is Los Santos de la Hermosa. And it's a nice bike ride, and as you can see, it's very, very steep, or hope you can see, it's a very, very steep climb, but there's a dirt road that goes almost all the way there, but you have to take the last couple kilometers on the highway. Gotta go.